Welcome back to Fantasy Fights. This time around, we look at Jack Dempsey, the Manasseh Mauler, going against Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber. These were two legendary fighters of the 1920s and 1930s and 40s. In the first half of the 20th century, from 1900 to 1950, sports writers got together and voted on the greatest heavyweights or greatest fighters of that 50-year period of time. Jack Dempsey was elected or voted as the greatest fighter. Joe Louis was second. Most boxing historians, though, put Joe Louis ahead of him because of his superior jab and the longevity of his career. Whether you agree with that or not, it's totally up to you. But these two legends facing each other is a great fantasy fight. We're going to take a look here in just a second at Joe Louis. He's going to be fighting a man named Arturo Gatti in 1940. This is the fight right here. The reason I bring this fight up and not the Schmeling fight or some of the other fights is because Gatti had a style very similar to Jack Dempsey. He was low, coming in, bobbing and weaving, smothering Louis with his punches. Louis liked room. He liked to keep his opponent away. Dempsey had a tremendous chin. As you can see, his chin was buried most of the time and low. He was hard to hit. He was a tremendous body puncher, much like Gatti. This is what the fight would look like if the two fought each other in their prime. Of course, Dempsey had more power. It's said that Dempsey would never be able to get inside Louis's jab, and I just don't think that's true. I think Dempsey would be able to get inside. Now, having said that, could Louis punch inside? You better believe it. Louis had the faster hands, but quite possibly Dempsey had the better chin. It depends on who you're listening to. Joe Louis lost 3 fights in his career. He was 68-3, an incredible record. In 1937, he won the title from Jimmy Braddock, 8th round knockout. Then in 1938, he fought Max Schmeling and knocked him out in the first round. In 1936, before he won the title, Schmeling had knocked out Joe Louis in the 12th round. And of course, that was one of the greatest upsets in boxing history. The other 2 losses that Louis suffered were after he came out of retirement. In 1951 against Ezra Charles, and he also, 1950 he lost to Ezra Charles. In 1951 he lost to Rocky Marciano, but he was well past his prime when he lost those 2 fights. Louis could be hit, but it was very, very hard to do it. The 2 guys that probably had the most success against Joe Louis in his prime was Billy Conn right before the war in 1941. He was well ahead on points after 13 rounds and was knocked out by Louis. He got a little cute and tried to exchange punches with him. And it's widely accepted that Jersey Joe Walcott in 1948 beat Joe Louis in a 15-round bout. Even at that would have been 5 losses. So I'm showing you the Jack Dempsey-Jack Sharkey fight in 1927. You say, well, why did I pick this fight to show you? Well, I think this demonstrates Jack Dempsey's style. He crowded you, he came at you, he bobbed, he weaved, much like Gatti, who we saw against Louis. I think that's the way the fight would go. Dempsey won the title in 1919 against Jess Willard. He knocked him out in the 4th round. Jess Willard was 6'6", 230, slow, awkward, and Dempsey was very quick and had little trouble with him. Dempsey had several defenses, nothing like Joe Louis, but he did have defenses up until 1923. He kind of went to Hollywood, married a starlet there, and got a little bit softer, but he came back in 1926 against Gene Tunney. Tunney beat him in a 10-round decision. Dempsey wanted a rematch. The public wanted the rematch. So Dempsey had to take on Jack Sharkey in 1927 with the winner to fight Gene Tunney for the title. later that year in 1927. Notice the inside fighting by both of them. It turns it into a brawl. It's really hard to box and stay away from Dempsey, although Tunney was able to do that. Most boxing historians believe Sharkey was winning the fight at this point. He was well ahead. Remember, back in those days, they did not wear boxing cups or harnesses or whatever you want to call them to protect your precious gems. And because of that, a lot of fights were stopped with a foul. Sharkey claimed he was hit low, and this is going to take place about right now here, as you can see it. It's going to be a low punch. Was it a low blow? Well, Sharkey claimed it was, went to claim that to the referee, and Dempsey hit him on the chin, and the fight's over. He went down. Looked to me like Sharkey could have definitely got back up, but he did not. In slow motion, you can see the punch and the effect it had on him. You be the judge, but regardless, Dempsey won the fight, went on and fought Tunney again, and lost the fight in 1927. Because of eye damage, Dempsey soon retired after that and really never came out and fought again. He fought a bunch of exhibitions, but he never fought a real fight again. As we watch Jack Dempsey's aggressive style, which made him a fan favorite, you need to realize that he was bigger than boxing. Mike Tyson watched his fights and emulated his style, his aggressive attack, no mercy style. If you've seen the Jess Willard fight, you know what I mean. We're looking at the 1919 heavyweight championship fight between Jack Dempsey and Jess Willard. Willard stood 6'6", 245 for the fight. He'd held the title for 4 years. He defeated Jack Johnson in 1915 in a 26th round knockout. Willard was highly regarded by most people, but in reality, as you look at the videos, he was just big. And his best attribute was his ability to absorb punishment. Regardless, you can see Dempsey is having his way with him, putting Willard down repeatedly. It's not much of a fight. This is the first round action you're looking at, and as I said, the fight went to the 4th round. Dempsey stood over his opponents. This was his style, and that was legal back then. It's not going to be until 1927 that they're going to put in a new rule where you have to go to the neutral corner after a knockdown. And of course, that's going to result in the famous long count, which we'll get to when we talk about Tunney. Willard just has no defense against Dempsey. Dempsey just repeatedly is pounding him. Dempsey was an instant sensation in 1918, defeating Carl Morris, Fireman Jim Flynn, Bill Brennan, Fred Fulton, battling Levinsky, and Gunboat Smith. There was a big demand for him to fight for the title. Now we're going to watch the 1920 title defense for Jack Dempsey against Bill Brennan. Brennan was one of the top contenders at the time. He'd lost earlier to Dempsey in a 6-round knockout. He's going to do much better this time as he lasts 12 rounds before Dempsey finally puts him down. This is just a continuation of Dempsey's bobbing and weaving style to let you see what it looks like. We're going to take a look at 3 different fights here. We're going to continue with Dempsey in his 1921 title defense against George Carpentier, the first $1 Million Gate. The Frenchman, Carpentier, was only a light heavyweight. It was a big mismatch. Dempsey was asked to carry him, and he did, finally knocking him out in the 4th round. Next, Joe Louis is fighting Billy Conn. This was the closest that Joe Louis came to losing the title during his prime. The 1941 fight, Conn is just boxing world. He's a light heavyweight champ. He's boxing circles around Joe Louis. Well ahead on points. And Louis cannot solve the mystery. But Khan is not going to be satisfied with the win by decision. He wants to go for the knockout and gets more and more aggressive. Finally, in the 13th round, the two start exchanging blows. And of course, when you're exchanging blows with Joe Louis, that's not going to be good. Louis is going to put Khan down and win by a 13th round knockout, as you can see, and retains his title. The two fight later, but it was after the war, and it did not have much of an impact. Jersey Joe Walcott is the next fighter we're going to watch against Joe Louis. Now, this was much later. This was after the war, 1947. Louis was well past his prime. Jersey Joe Walcott was in his prime. Remember, Jersey Joe is eventually going to win the title in 1951. He's well ahead on points, most people believe, but this fight goes to a 15-round decision. Most people felt like Jersey Joe outboxed Joe Louis and should have won the title that night, but he did not. Joe Louis was given the title, or retained the title in a decision, 15-round decision. Now, as usual, on these fantasy fights, I'm going to do my chart and go with the comparisons. Hand speed, Joe Louis had the faster hands. Boxing ability, Joe Louis was a better boxer. Knockout punch, both of them delivered a wallop. Jack Dempsey had the better chin. He came off the canvas very few times. He's hard to put down. Size, defense, and endurance, really no advantage. Dempsey was a little smaller, maybe 189. Louis in his prime was fought in the 190 range. As we look at the second one, foot speed, I'm going to give Dempsey a slight advantage. Strength, really no advantage. Louis had the better jab, which could be the difference in the fight. Cuts and reach, no advantage to either fighter. Louis has an advantage on the chart, 3-2-8. I just don't see that being decisive. Before I render my decision on the Dempsey-Louis fight, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe. We're going to have a lot more fights. This is one of the toughest fights in boxing history by two fighters that are generally considered top 10 fighters of all time. In the first half of the 20th century, Dempsey and Louis rank 1 or 2, depending on your viewpoint, in the heavyweight division. I'm going to have to go with Joe Louis in the decision because he's got the better jab, he's a better boxer, and he has faster hands. I don't rule out that Dempsey would be real strong in the early rounds and might even put Louis on the deck. But I'm looking over 12 rounds. I think Joe Louis would come out probably a 7-4-1 decision. I don't think Louis would put Dempsey down. I think he'd win a decision over 12 rounds. Please let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, why. We broke it down as much as we can. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.